breaking news out of the sports world tonight. Boxing legend Joe Frazier has died. The former heavyweight champ lost his battle with liver cancer.
Frazier died at the age of 67 after losing his battle against liver cancer. In his final major television interview before his death,
14 years after Joe Frazier was laid to rest, cemetery workers cracked open his crypt, only to feel a blast of icy air and witness a scene so impossible the coroner dropped his tools. What was inside will shock you. Joe Frazier had survived Muhammad Ali's lightning jabs, George Foreman's sledgehammer fists, and 42 professional wars. Yet in September 2011, a silent opponent slipped through his guard, stage 4 liver cancer. Doctors gave him weeks, not months. The news stunned the boxing world. Hope flickered. Fans believed the man who outgutted Ali in the fight of the century might claw back again. But on November 7, 2011, at just 67, Frazier's voice fell quiet. Outside Philadelphia's Methodist Hospital, reporters stood in drizzle, recounting the warrior's greatest nights while nurses dimmed the room lights around his bed. The bell tolled 10, and the bout was over. At least that's what everyone thought. Before the family could grieve, another heartbreak emerged. Years of lawsuits over a failed land deal, a shuttered North Broad Street gym, and meager broadcast royalties had drained Frazier's fortune. The man who packed Madison Square Garden walked into eternity owing tax liens he never understood. His relatives scraped together enough for a plain vault at Ivy Hill Cemetery.
Man, with those fights with Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers that we've ever seen, Philadelphia, and he was just great.
He had liver cancer that he was actually moved into hospice, so we knew the time was near.
No headstone, no carved gloves, just a concrete lid and a paper tag. The champion's first round began in silence, but grief wasn't done rewriting the scorecard. Twitter exploded the day after the funeral. Floyd Mayweather Jr., flashy, undefeated, unapologetically wealthy, tweeted, "My condolences go out to the family of the late great Joe Frazier. The money team will pay for his funeral services." Fans argued it was PR. Cynics called it hush money for past trash talk. Yet Mayweather wired the funds, commissioning a gleaming marble crypt etched with Frazier's Olympic gold medal grin and his heavyweight belt. Ivy Hill unveiled the monument on November 7th, 2012, exactly 1 year later. Cameras rolled, a brass band played When the Saints Go Marching In. The city exhaled. The legend finally looked like royalty. From 2013 to 2023, the tomb turned pilgrimage site. Tourists left Everlast gloves. Church choirs sang Eye of the Tiger. Even Muhammad Ali's daughter Layla visited in secret. Caretakers dusted the marble every Friday. All seemed stable until tiny cracks crept across the front panel during an abnormally mild winter. Groundskeepers patched them, shrugged, and moved on. The next spring, those hairline fractures spread like lightning on tempered glass. Only Frazier's vault suffered. Identical crypts beside it stayed flawless. Ivy Hill called Temple University's geology department for a soil study. The scientists brought drones, laser scanners, and ground-penetrating radar, none of which prepared them for the pressure shadows pulsing directly beneath Joe's resting place. Then a fist-sized chip broke off in a single night. Engineers warned of a cave-in. City Hall signed an emergency order. Open the crypt immediately or risk a domino collapse of adjacent graves. The family hesitated. Disturbing a legend felt sacrilegious. But nature's countdown couldn't be ignored. And so the marble lid that money bought was about to meet a mystery money couldn't solve. At dawn, the work began. Floodlights washed over the white marble while engineers bolted steel braces around the structure. The final bolt turned. The capstone slid aside, and a breath of freezing air shot up the workers' arms. Nothing in a sealed tomb should move the air. Cameras flashed. Men backed away as their exhalations turned visible. The temperature dip lasted seconds, but it felt like the ring walk before a title fight. Every sense on edge, everyone asking the same unspoken question. What's waiting in there? A pale sunrise bled over Ivy Hill on April 2nd, 2024. Portable floodlights bathed the crypt in harsh brightness. Steel braces hugged its corners. Reporters stood 50 yards back, cold coffee steaming in their hands. Inside the barrier, structural engineers murmured torque values while a priest whispered Psalm 23. 6 bolts, 4 chain hoists, 1 shuttering slab. The second the lid moved, a breath of air colder than the April breeze struck the crew's faces. Everyone froze. Crypts don't exhale. Sealed chambers equalized years ago. Yet this tomb felt alive, exhaling like a prize fighter between rounds. The scent that followed blended dust, old carnations, and an odd metallic note, like rain on bronze. Workers swapped uneasy glances. Even the most rational minds felt the prickle of legend. A foreman signaled. The slab rose inches inches, then feet, revealing darkness that swallowed flashlight beams. Finally, with a groan, marble cleared the opening. Cameras clicked. No one spoke. The oak casket inside had shifted almost 30 degrees, wedged against the crypt wall as if something had shoved it from within. The inner marble showed spiderweb cracks starting exactly behind the coffin's left side, the side Frazier powered his famous hook. Coincidence? Or a post-mortem uppercut only stone could record? But the coffin itself held the bigger shock. Coroners unscrewed the mahogany lid and history blinked. Joe Frazier lay inside looking present. Skin pale but not collapsed, nose unbroken, hands still sheathed in white nylon gloves his daughter had slipped on him 14 years earlier. Embalming slows decay, but science agrees. After a decade, tissues liquefy, faces cave, and skeletons peek through. Philadelphia's humid summers accelerate that timeline. Yet here, time had stalled. No exotic sealing wax lined the interior, no refrigeration coils. Rayon padding had barely discolored. Morticians whispered that even Lenin's glass sarcophagus in Moscow requires constant chemical baths, yet Frazier rested in an ordinary coffin, inside a vault with 2 vent bricks and a drainage tube. Every textbook crumbled in that single view. A pathologist lifted the champion's left hand. The fingers curled with faint rigidity. Joints should have turned to dust by now. Cameras zoomed on the lace-up cuff of his burial glove. The white nylon still bright. Outside the crypt, someone crossed himself. How? Hypotheses tumbled. Maybe ground seepage created a vacuum. Perhaps minerals in the marble formed a desiccating halo, or could the violent pressure detected earlier hint at gas pockets that mummified the body? None fit perfectly, and none explained the final discovery. Under his rib cage, where surgeons would find the liver, coroners discovered a mass the color of volcanic glass. Hard, glossy, cold. Biopsies later showed calcium carbonate fused with necrotic tissue. Evidence of liver cells scorched by aggressive cancer, then petrified instead of rotting. The tumor had literally turned to stone. Doctors theorized that rapid cell death combined with mineral-rich groundwater caused calcification, locking the mass in a crystalline prison. That stone may have emitted gases during mineral conversion, pushing outward against the coffin walls. Pressure translated to cracks. Cracks escalated to fracture. Joe's last act of resistance was microscopic chemistry, yet it produced enough force to shatter an 8-inch thick slab. The idea thrilled geologists and terrified preservationists who realized the same unseen reaction could erupt elsewhere in Ivy Hill. But one question dwarfed the rest. Why did the rest of the body stay intact? No science team, from Temple to MIT, could replicate a model that preserved soft tissue while petrifying a single organ. Theories bordered on supernatural. Headlines screamed boxer beats decay. Ivy Hill opted for discretion, sealing lab results and banning overnight visitors. The rumor mill only spun faster. While experts argued physics, fans focused on finances. How had a global icon slid so deep into debt that he almost rested forever in an unmarked vault? A 2015 Sports Illustrated investigation estimated 78% of NFL players and 60% of NBA athletes face severe financial distress within 5 years of retirement. Boxers fare worse. No league pension, no guaranteed contracts, no health coverage for the brain damage they accumulate. Joe Frazier's cracked tomb became a courtroom exhibit against a sport that eats its young, then forgets them. Promoters grossed hundreds of millions on his trilogy with Ali, yet the man himself spent his final years selling autographs at Atlantic City diners. Had Mayweather not stepped in, tourists today would walk past a blank concrete block and never know the warrior beneath. Philadelphia council members proposed a Legends Fund financed by a voluntary 0.5% cut of any boxing gate over $5 million held in the city. The earmark would cover medical bills, counseling, and dignified burials for retired fighters. Debate rages. Promoters call it a tax. Gym owners call it overdue justice. Some fans pledge $1 per pay-per-view to keep heroes off crowdfunding sites when the lights dim. Frazier's posthumous miracle forces a hard stare at that debate. If the sport won't guard its champions, perhaps nature or mystery will mount its own defense. But nature's method involved cracks, fear, and a stone where a liver once pumped blood. By midsummer 2024, preservationists wrapped the coffin in inert gas sheeting, lined the vault with carbon fiber ribs, injected micro-epoxy into every fracture, and lowered Joe back into place. The petrified tumor remained inside him, a geological trophy no museum could ethically display. A new bronze plaque now warns, "Disturb not the warrior within." Tour buses respect the perimeter, yet rumor says the air beside the crypt still runs a degree cooler than anywhere else on the lane. Visitors stand there, silent, absorbing a chill that feels like destiny flexing its shoulders. Some swear they hear faint breaths, others insist the marble vibrates if you rest your palm where his left hook once hammered. Science offers measurements, but folklore writes the reviews. Ivy Hill hired an extra night guard anyway. Meanwhile, the Legends Fund proposal inches through committee hearings. Retired fighters testify about eviction notices, unpaid brain scan bills, knees that click like castanets because surgery costs too much. Each story adds weight to Frazier's tombstone, as if his preserved frame still leans forward, urging society to keep punching. Joe Frazier's greatest punch wasn't the left-hand thunderbolt that floored Muhammad Ali in 1971. It might be the invisible strike he landed from beyond the grave in 2024, a blow that cracked marble, rattled scientists, and reminded the world that legends don't quit at the 10 count. So ask yourself, as you share this video and debate in the comments, what duty do we owe the athletes who surrender their bodies for our cheers? Should promoters fund safety nets? Should fans chip in $1 per bout? Or does every fighter walk alone after the lights fade? His near perfectly preserved body defies textbooks. The stone that was once his liver rewrites pathology lectures. Yet the real mystery may be why his story still forces us to face uncomfortable truths. Greatness is mortal, glory is rented, and dignity too often hinges on a stranger's generosity. Drop your take below, like, subscribe, and smash that bell for the next jaw-dropping round.